My name is Jess Ponting, as he mentioned. I'm the Director of the Center for Surf Research at San Diego State University. We also recently founded an organisation which is quite loose at the moment, called the Association of Surfing Academics, which has around 70 members from 15 different countries representing lots of different academic disciplines, of people who are lending their knowledge and expertise in research to help support the EnviroSurf community in its aims. We are having a meeting tomorrow between 3 and 5 in this room, and anyone who is interested in the research space that supports the EnviroSurf community is very welcome to come along to that. We're hoping to be able to put together a list of research priorities to support that community, and we have a survey that you can access through the WOVA app. Under the bulletins, there's a link to that survey where we're asking you for what you think the most important issues are. If you could all take that survey, it would help us quite a lot. I also founded with an ex-student and intern of mine, Carl Kish, he's sitting over there with a camera, Stoke Certified, which is the world's first sustainability certification for surf and snow resorts, destinations and events. And you may have heard that the Global Wave Conference is attempting Stoke certification for this event. As we speak, an independent evaluator is assessing the venue and the event operations against 87 sustainability criteria and over 300 compliance indicators. And by the end of the week, we'll know if the event reaches the 70% compliance required to be certified, or 80% to be certified as sustainable, or 90% will be certified as best practice. We developed Stoke Certified to help surfers duck dive the greenwash and be able to make informed decisions and choose legitimately sustainable surf travel. We shouldn't have to choose between getting stoked and sustainability, and Stoke Certified is committed to bringing those things together and making them one and the same. So climate change threatens the sport that we love, the oceans that we play in, the reefs that we surf over, the coastal communities that our global surf tribe calls home. Yet the surf industry that commodified our culture and sold it back to us at a profit has largely failed to rise to the challenge. In this panel, we're going to hear from people who are actually stepping up, from the surf industry and from NGOs that are bent on dragging the industry to a more sustainable trajectory. Our first speaker was a budding real estate mogul when he found a deeper calling and co-founded Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii, the largest plastic pollution educational outreach program in the state. Now, while he's best known for his work keeping Hawaii's beaches clean, Kahi is driving a new project to influence influencers and change consumer demand for surfing's most toxic piece of hardware. Ladies and gentlemen, Kahi Kara.
All right. Well, mahalo everybody for allowing me to be here. I'm honored to, this will be my second Global Wave Conference, and after the last one, I knew I couldn't miss this next one. I want to just quickly talk about our organization. We're pretty much on the path of teaching people that clean beaches start at home. If all we ever do is clean beaches, that's all we'll ever do. So we have a very broad education program in the schools, educating over 12,000 kids a year. We do very large cleanups across the state, even up into the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. And we do special projects, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. Just one of them. We have the belief that EcoBoard adoption needs this catalyst to really spark its adoption. We here are at what we call the eco fringe of the movement with these technologies behind us, but not many people out of this room know about them. And everybody needs to realize that we don't have to sacrifice our performance in surfing for materials. We can have an EcoBoard that works. So we created a project called the Pro Test. It's a way for the pros to test EcoBoards along with a protest against the 100% toxic board. We believe that the average Joe is looking up to our leaders and being like, I'm not going to waste my time experimenting if they're not also using EcoBoards. So we're using the pros to more or less be the innovators and the leaders to inspire the change. So what we did is put this project together, got these supporters on board, thanks to Vans for stepping up to Largest and Parlay, and our partners Surfer, Surfdome, and Sustainable Surf for helping certify the boards as level 1 or beyond EcoBoard. This is just a mix of the many shapers. These are the top shapers on the island of Oahu. We also had Firewire, who are here today, along with Channel Islands, that sent boards. We created a library of 35 EcoBoards that the pros could check out for about a week at a time, get their clips, return them, and get another board. We created this library for them to check out, and it was awesome. We also had these epic glassers and sanders. Not many of them want to work with these types of materials, but these guys sacrificed and actually fell in love with the materials. Let's go. The rules are pretty simple. You need to get access to a board that is utilizing 25% or better materials based on the core and the bio-resins that you're using. So people use Arctic foam, the algae-based foam. They use a lot of Marco foam, it's a recycled EPS. They use entropy resins and BioLink from ProLink resins. They also incorporated things like basalt tape, hemp cloth, etc. And the goal was to create a 3-minute clip that they submit to us explaining what their boards were made out of along with the actual proof. And these videos are going to be available starting April 1st on Surfer Magazine, where we're going to get a chance to all vote on them. And then the final 3 are going to go into the back room where we're going to have a professional panel of judges choose the winner, who's going to be announced on Earth Day. So we definitely had our challenges for this project. Primarily, it was just an idea that we just had. And I really need to give a huge shout out to brother man Cliff Capono over here. Because without him, nobody would have really listened to me. So it was an unproven concept, and it was NGO-led, so finding money was very difficult in the surf industry where money is tight. And when I started my NGO, we didn't get a grant for the first 2 years, so I know what it's about trying to create this concept that people can get behind, and sometimes you just got to sacrifice, and we can't thank Vans enough for believing in us and letting us launch this project. The next part was convincing the shapers and the glassers. These materials have been around for a long time, and a lot of times they failed. They haven't worked, but we knew that they have because we've sacrificed a lot of time experimenting in it because we, partially it was because we didn't want to be hypocritical, but also we want to push the envelope of what is possible with these materials. So convincing these shapers to take on this experiment was difficult, but once we did enough coaxing, they were all on board. So you saw some of the top shapers in the world involved. They also don't want to shape what the clients don't want. It's kind of a supply-demand issue. They only want to supply what they know they can sell. So we really needed to push the demand, and therefore that's why the protest project is so important. If we can push the demand, we can then have the supply follow. When the supply follows, you get economies of scale, prices start dropping, and brands start seeing the money involved with investing in R&D for them to push it to the next level. Another part was the waves themselves. The surf was terrible in the beginning of the winter. So we had a quiver of 35 brand new epic boards, but we didn't want to put them out in 10-foot onshore board-breaking pipe. But luckily, things came around, and the past month and a half has been pretty epic. But despite all these challenges, we have had some amazing successes. So I have just quick teasers of where some of the entries are starting to come in. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I get to show you some of them.
Growing up on an island out in the middle of the Pacific has given me a deep understanding of our connection to the land and ocean.
So the cool thing about this project is we're not filming these guys. They're out there with their brands, with their film crews, getting these edits. And once they do go live on April 1st, it's going to be the brands that are pushing their surfers and the general public to get to these websites, to look at these videos and vote for their guys and girls. And the great part about that is that's huge exposure on the fact that these boards work. Here's the next video.
The boards work great. At the start, I was a little nervous because they were so light, and I never really used epoxy boards before in critical waves. So it took a little while to get the confidence, but once I started getting some good drops, some steep drops, and making the waves, then I started gaining confidence and wanted to use the boards more. And then I started getting some really good waves, and it just fired me up to use the boards every session. Then I started using the boards every session and just fell in love.
So they didn't want to share their whole edits, obviously. And they're also collecting more clips, and we've got about 4 or 5 other edits coming in. And these guys have been sacrificing almost their whole winter on EcoBoards, and they realized that it really hasn't been a sacrifice at all. And these boards work in the air as well. You can see right here, this is Lucas launching one, and these boards work in every type of condition. They even work in very large waves, as Cliff is going to prove someday soon. So I guess the best successes that we've had in this project, more or less, is the demand and the supply that has followed. Shapers are all trying to call me, like, where do I get these materials? Where can I get the resin? Where can I get the foam? Because all of a sudden their clients are saying, hey, I heard about this protest project, I saw some clips on Instagram, these boards work, I want to get these boards. So it's working, and Arctic Foam and Marco Foam are now bringing the materials into Hawaii when they've never been available before. So thank you guys very much for that. All right. And I guess the best part about this project is that we've got this proof of concept. And I'm super proud to announce the fact that the protest is growing legs. The fact that we had 25% better boards, maybe next year for the North Shore, we bump it up to 30. To a point where we get to a point where we have a 0% board that's made from petroleum-based products. So our next step is to take the protest project to the other side of the world. And thanks to Corona and Parlay and the WSL, we're taking her to Jeffreys Bay. So we're launching an almost exact same project across South Africa, with the culmination of the winner being announced at the WSL event in Jeffreys Bay. And the winner is going to get to surf in the Highline event utilizing EcoBoards. So that winner gets to surf Perfect J Bay with just the best guys out, 3 others. Thanks very much for your time.
Came home with another struggling grad student, a befreckled Englishman. He was on a trip with his sister, and we ended up going camping and surfing down on the south coast of New South Wales, and good times were had. 20 years later, less hair, same freckles. Tom Kay is the founder of Finisterre, a sustainable surf apparel brand that he started in his bedroom in Cornwall. Finisterre now has 6 stores around the UK, and sustainability and innovation are baked into its DNA. As well as recently achieving B Corp status, Tom has set his sights on one of the biggest elephants in the room when it comes to cold water surfing. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Kay, the founder of Finisterre.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, fellow panel guys. And just wanted to thank Chad for putting on this event and asking me here today to talk to you. And it's been a privilege being among so many people empowered to affect change. So I think first up, give yourselves all a big round of applause. So I'm Tom Kay. I'm the founder of Finisterre. As Jess said, Finisterre is a brand I started in my bedroom in St Agnes in Cornwall 15 years ago, and the brand was really born out of the needs of cold water surfers, and we build the best and most sustainable product we can for those that share our love of the sea. So what I'm going to do today is just, I've got 10 minutes. This guy here is giving me his home, which I didn't know until now. It's great. Thank you very much. Is to just talk to you a bit about how I wrap my passions into a brand. How that brand sort of then overlays into an ethos, how that ethos then becomes a product, and how we really innovate to achieve a sustainability agenda and really try to address the issues of sustainability in the surf industry. So we go back to me and my passions. This is the best photo I've ever seen of a rough sea, and I love it. It's in the workshop in St Agnes on the wall and stuff. And it goes back to when I was younger, like a lot of people here, a lot of their inspirations and their passions come from how they're brought up. Mum and Dad said to talking to each other, how do you want to bring up the kids? They said we'd love to instill in them a love of the sea. And so that meant for my sister and I were in, with boats, in windsurfing, and then when I hit sort of 15, 16, I really got into surfing, and that's my formative years. Probably went through every bad dress sense in the 90s you can imagine. I had long hair, the rest of it. But it was what I lived and breathed, and the surfing was everything, became everything to me. And the sort of surfing I was doing was cold water surfing, and that's nothing new. I've been doing that for years. But for me, it was the surfing in the UK where there's unbelievable waves around the UK, but often it's cold, it's wet, the banks change, the wind changes to get there, you get stuck in traffic, it's a nightmare. But every now and then it's absolutely unbelievable. So for me there's a romance in that sort of pursuit of cold water surfing. So for those who don't, just a quick couple of slides on what it's like for me to be a surfer back then. I had a really in-depth relationship with this guy, and he was like, he didn't know about it. It was a bit sad, but he didn't know who I was. But basically, this was all the source, sort of 15, 20 years ago for where and when to go surf in the UK. Basically, lean forward, talk about something in the east of England. You could see what isobars and pressure charts were behind them, and from that, we made decisions about where to go and when to go. Internet killed our relationship. It was him, not me, sort of thing. But it basically meant that you could end up surfing waves like this up in Scotland. You find like a 12th century castle. We surf regularly out front of where we are in St Agnes, in front of 18th century tin mines. And for me, there's a real commitment to the sort of surfing I was doing and understanding the weather, and it was something that really it was all I did with my passions. And so I went to university, I did marine biology, and then left university, and like a lot of people leave university, sort of ground into real life, I suppose, and hit a job that I didn't enjoy. I was working in London doing photocopying. I was like, up that point in my life, everything had been around the sea and my love of the sea, and I knew that I couldn't sort of stay there, and that I had to sort of work out how to build something around my passion. So it was cold water surfing. I've had a quite a close relationship in marine biology with the marine environment, and so it was conservation, it was sustainability, and the sort of product that I really wanted to start making was a product that was relevant to me as a surfer, as I was in the UK back then, as I am now, as we all are now after this set. It was a sort of product that sort of had a really functional need to it. You open a surf mag back then, and probably it's from today actually, the first sort of 6 pages of bikinis and board shorts. And for me in the UK, that really wasn't what I was looking for. And so it was the product that I liked was stuff that was functional, was built to last, my best product was the product that I had the longest. Unlike your mobile phone, where after about, you get it for the first week, you look after it, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, you just kick it around, and you don't care about it, and you get another one. For me, it's sort of the reverse of that. The longer you have our product, the more I want you to love it. And so that's kind of what sort of Finisterre became, basically. It was the passions of cold water surfing, love of the environment, a need to build better product, and also address a really strong sustainability agenda in terms of how and where product was made. And that was basically the sort of the start of the brand, really. It's 15 years ago, and you can look at our original website now. Even then we said we're going to commit to 3 things: product, environment, and people. So I was really proud, as Jess said, we became B Corp certified last 2 weeks ago, and that's thank you. Yes, it's big. You guys are the second who have actually told, so I really appreciate that. And it's, it was a big deal. It's really affirmation in the last 15 years. But giving us a lot more to work towards. There's loads of things we can do better. We're not saying we're perfect, got all the answers, or got it all worked out. But it's really an outlook we have as a brand, is how we can try and work it out, how we can try and be better. And so in our B Corp manifesto this year, traceable merino, non-reusable merino we've always done, fluorocarbon-free, waterproof, recycled, insulation, and also we're going to be single-use plastic-free by the end of the year. So a lot of really good stuff. So that's, how am I doing time? 5 minutes left, okay, great. So basically that's the brand, passions, the ethos, and then how that comes across in the product. This is our Beaumont project, which is a really great project. Have a look online. It's basically how we resurrected a bunch of sheep in Devon from 26 sheep to 300. We now make a wool out of it. So it's a really great example of the 3 points of commitment coming together, because we worked with the farmer for 5 years to breed these sheep. So it's a real commitment to the product before we actually even got product out there. So that's the Beaumont project. Saw us go to Savile Row as part of Prince Charles' campaign for wool. I got a boiler suit on, I was chatting farming. It was cool. And isolation jackets I've talked about, but basically we do it for 10 years now. It's recycled polyester, Blue Sign accredited polyester. We've now got 100% recycled fill. It's Down look. We have never worked with Down, probably never will. And it really is the sort of thing where we've looked at an issue that we think needs addressing and have come across the solution. Our swimwear is made from Econil. Maybe you guys have heard of Econil. It's a really great fabric that's made of recycled nylon, made from recycled fishing nets and old office carpets out in Eastern Europe. And finally, just going to talk about our wetsuit recycling program, which is something you guys are the first guys I've talked about actually. And it is a massive elephant in the room. I think it's a really great, the alternative to neoprene, that's fantastic. That's we work with Ulex in our spring summer suits this year. But the real problem is that pile of wetsuits under the stairs and back of the car that, actually let's see raise a hand, who's got a pile of wetsuits in their house, shared car that they don't use? Yes, so easily over half the room. So we looked at UK surfers alone, so surfing alone in the UK, 500,000 surfers, probably buying a suit every 18 months. That's 380 tonnes of neoprene a year that is just lying around that we're pulling up in a landfill. And we love a double-decker comparison in the UK, so that's 30 double-decker buses full of neoprene that potentially go into landfill. So it's a massive problem, and so we've sort of identified the problem. We've also said that we're not wetsuit experts, so in terms of how they're made and the really scientific nature of how you make neoprene. So we've hooked up with Exeter University, which is up the road in the southwest of the UK, and they've got an unbelievable leading academic institution there for material re-engineering. And so in October last year, we appointed a position at Finisterre, a full-time wetsuit recycler. I think it's the only full-time wetsuit recycler in the world. And her job is to work out, can you make wetsuits from wetsuits? And it is the shoot for the stars ambition, but it's what we're going for. And I think there's a lot of really great initiatives around downcycling wetsuits, but we are trying to introduce closed-loop manufacturing into the wetsuit industry, and something we're really, really excited about. For me, it's exciting in a number of ways. A, because it's a massive issue and a problem we need to address. B, it's really unknown. Generally, it's pioneering. I have no idea where it's going to go. But also, the third thing is that it's bringing together a university, a brand with sort of the right outlook, and a community to really sort of work out how we can address the problem. I've heard a lot of talks in the last 2 or 3 days, and it seems like that collaborative power is a really great thing that we all need to keep harnessing. And 1 + 1 is 10 is what we're going for. And we're looking to introduce the world's, hopefully, first recycled wetsuit this autumn/winter, where we're looking at designing recyclability into the initial design of the suit, which is really hard to do because you have to have a suit that lasts a long time, but also when you finish with it, give it back to us, and we can work out how to break it down and recycle it. And the other sort of shoot for stars sort of ambition is that if we, 1 minute left, thank you, if we find an answer to this, we're keen to make it open source and talk to the rest of the industry about how they can address the problem. So yeah, that's me, that's Finisterre, that's our wetsuit recycling project. It's early days yet, it's only 3 or 4 months in, but it's really gathering pace, and I look forward to sort of talking to you guys about it as it goes along. But thanks for your time, and hopefully see you guys in the break for coffee or whatever. Yeah? Cool, thanks.
Kind introduction. I hope that you are as nice to Michael Stewart when he comes up. How do I progress myself forward? Do I just down arrow? I want to start by echoing what's been my favorite moment of Lamash. I want to start by echoing what's been my favorite moment of the conference so far. The gentleman here who said sober optimism, aggressive incrementalism. That just spoke really powerful to me, and I took a note of it. So, having spent time on that, I'm going to start by skipping my first slide. So, for starters, this is me in 2014, excitedly explaining the design of the hashtag model surfboard by Firewire Surfboards. As Jess said, I fondled surfboards in a black room like this, featuring boards built by every board manufacturer that you've heard of, nearly. And I did this for a few years. It was really fun. I had some success with it. And after a while, getting boards from all these brands and making these videos, I noticed that kind of by default, I had just started surfing Firewire boards more than others because they were more fun for me to surf. And most importantly, they lasted longer, which is key. So this is an Instagram post that I posted on the Shred Show, my Instagram account, in 2013. 5 years later, this brand new TimberTech board from 13 is a board I surfed at Steamer Lane yesterday. So still one of my favorite boards. And I'm going to move this chair. I'll reference this other board in a second. So with this enthusiasm for Firewire growing, I just asked them if I could join the company in 2016. And fortunately, they said yes. I made this video telling my YouTube audience what I was doing. And they were all excited because Firewire was endlessly requested to be featured on my YouTube channel for the reasons that I mentioned. They were great boards and they lasted a long time. So today, what I do at Firewire is I take the lessons that I learned from explaining surfboard design, because if anyone in here has ever been a beginning surfer, you know that surfboard design is mind-bogglingly complex. What does the concave do, the rocker, the rail, all this stuff? And I now take those lessons and I apply them to describing the eco-merits of surfboard production, not just for Firewire, but across an industry. Here's an example of it. Here is a surfboard, and here is a paving stone, and you might ask yourself, what on earth do they have in common? Well, cutting foam into surfboard shapes creates dust and other waste that we don't want to put in the trash. So at Firewire's factory, we funnel all of the waste into these trash bags, and then we dump the bags into this green machine that melts and densifies the waste into this hot material that we mold into paving stones like these at the Surf Ranch in Lemoore. The waste from a single surfboard equals about one big paver and one little paver. Both of the sizes link up like this. This is actually pretty fun to watch. Anyway, they link up like this to create walkable surfaces like this at Starboard Paddleboard headquarters and here at Firewire headquarters in California. These pavers are just one step towards zero waste manufacturing at Firewire Surfboard. Okay, cut off for a second there, So, interesting, not as exciting as guys getting spit out of barrels like Kahi showed you, and he's right, he has incentivized us to promote his content, and I can tell you more about that later if you want. But this is one of the paving stones that you just saw in the video, and this is our brand new paving stone that you're seeing for the first time. The edges are flatter, the angles are tighter, they're going to link together better. We're just trying to create the best product that we can out of our waste. So with that overview out of the way, this is a quote that's instilled throughout our entire company at Firewire and all our related brands. Mark Price, who would be here, but he caught a virus, as Jess said, so you're suffering through me. He says, over the long term, the business that you don't do is more important than the business that you do. So we all back this statement at Firewire, and I'll start with an example of the business that we don't do. So we don't do traction pads. If you look here at my 5-year-old TimberTech baked potato, there's a Dakine traction pad. It works fine, and we're not going to make the same Me Too product out of all virgin material and just put a different logo on it, or we would be just contributing more junk into the mix. So that's the business we don't do. What is the business that we do? Algae traction. This is a product endorsed by Kelly Slater, and it is made using algae sourced from natural waterways at risk of toxic algal bloom. So what does that mean? It means there's a company called Bloom Foam. They have these big, complex machines like this. They pull them up to the edge of ponds and lakes, and they pull algae-riddled water out of the natural habitat, and they put filtered water back into the natural habitat. As you can see, the exit water on the right, the pond water, well, the exit pond water on your right. And they separate the algae like this, which they then turn into flexible foams like you see on this green board back here. Second example, this is a new leash that we're going to release later this year that Kelly Slater is endorsing. Thank you. The cord is made from 20% recycled urethane. The cuff uses Ulex. Just using Ulex alone in the cuff reduced the carbon footprint of the leash cuff by 80%. And everything down to the logos that you see, the thread in the logos was crafted from post-consumer recycled PET. And as I said, this comes out in a couple months. The third example and final example I'll give of our products, we are collaborating with some really interesting folks in New Zealand who have crafted a more sustainable alternative to fiberglass. The surfboard behind me, that's green right here, was laminated with wool sustainably sheared from sheep in New Zealand. There is no fiberglass in that board. There is no fiberglass in this board. This is a photo of Mark Price and myself out with our 2 collaborators in New Zealand. This is a photo of me learning how to shear a sheep in New Zealand. Now, if by chance none of you have ever tried to shear a sheep, it's roughly like giving a haircut to a docile dog. With that out of the way, the good news is this is all working. The paver video that I showed you earned more engagement for us in 2017 than videos that we made, including Rob Machado and Kelly Slater, which says a lot because Rob Machado is Rob Machado and Kelly is Kelly. Furthermore, if you want to walk into a surf shop in Santa Cruz or wherever you go and you just say, hey, what's selling, what's moving out the door, they'll say Firewire surfboards, Tomo surfboards, Slater designs, and our related brands. We feel that a lot of the reason behind our success is the eco-merits of our product relative to our competition and the way that we message around those things. 4 quick notes on the future. A continued commitment to Sustainable Surf's EcoBoard project, which Kahi already did a good job of describing. So I will say, though, in relation to Sustainable Surf, they are the ones who inspired us to make the pavers. We were going to take all of our EPS waste and make fence posts out of it. They grabbed us and said, no, you need to make paving stones out of it. And thankfully, we listened to them because fence posts really are not that interesting. We like this more. We also are beginning to roll out re-res recyclable surfboard resin in our surfboard production. Re-res, as I just said, is recyclable. Does that mean that the surfboard is recyclable? No. But it does mean that since the resin is recyclable, you can take a surfboard, glassed with re-res, dunk it in a vinegar solution, and the resin would come right off the board. You could then take that resin and recycle it into something else. We're hoping to explore making fins. Additionally, if anyone in here knows anything about surfboard manufacturing, resin, the viscosity of it and how quickly that it hardens, destroys your tools. So after you make a certain number of surfboards, your bucket is coated in hardened resin, your stir stick is toast because it's thicker than it was because it's coated in resin, you gotta throw things out. What we'll be able to do when we incorporate this into our manufacturing is dump our tools into the same vinegar solution, the resin will come right off, we can keep using those tools, and that means we're not just keeping them out of the landfill, we're saving money because we don't have to buy more tools. Third point, we're aiming to be zero landfill by 2020. Over the last 18 months, no applause, I want to get through all this. Over the next 18 months, over the past 18 months, we've reduced the waste per board built by 95%. I think that we were at 0.4 cubic meters of waste per board built We've got that down to 0.05 cubic meters of waste per board built. Lastly, we're aiming for fair trade certification within the next 12 months. The process of getting fair trade certified has been very exciting for us, and we're excited to be the first surfboard manufacturing factory, that is fair trade certified. To give you kind of a broader look at what our company is like, when I walk through the halls at Firewire Surfboards in Carlsbad, or when I go to our Australian headquarters, all the people that founded the company are still there. No one has ever left Firewire. There have been staff changes for various reasons, but no one has ever left by their own volition because they got a quote-unquote better opportunity or just didn't like working at the company. So I count myself very fortunate to be there as one of the newer additions. I'll wrap up just by saying that we don't have all the answers. In fact, we have very few answers. I think of us as the canaries in the coal mine with our eyes closed, feeling around in the dark, searching for, man, I want to use your quote, aggressively making small increments. And a lot of the ways that we do that is by listening to folks that are smarter than us. So don't be scared to say hi to us at Firewire Surfboards. Appreciate your time, Tom. Thanks.
Thanks, Jess. We're proud to have you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Chad. I'm incredibly happy to be here for my second Global Wave Conference. And as time is short, let's just get to it. So, I'm Michael Stewart. I'm the co-founder of Sustainable Surf. And the name of this talk is actually Climate and Sustainability in the Surf Industry. So that's what I want to talk about. So, which is great because working to solve climate change is actually in the DNA of our organization. And it's the reason that we actually founded Sustainable Surf in the first place. And the simple truth, let me forward this. And the simple truth that we discovered along the way was that all of us making more sustainable choices in our everyday lives is actually the key to solving climate change. And basically every other problem that we've created for ourselves over the last 50 years. So let's talk about climate. Climate change is real, man-made, it's already happening, and it's heavily impacting ocean health by raising sea levels, acidifying oceans, killing reefs. And that's just for starters. So is there any question about that, or can I just keep going on? Okay, the science is settled. With that in mind, I just want to show you two pictures about what Kevin and I were doing before we actually started Sustainable Surf. So this is Kevin. He's actually doing his geology graduate work in Antarctica, near the Ross Sea. He was there studying permafrost to better understand the effects of climate change, or just trying to keep his favorite Scotch whiskey cold, I'm not sure. Next one is, this is a younger me planting trees near the Mississippi River on one of the reforestation projects that I was managing for its carbon credits called the Volkswagen Forest when I was at carbonfund.org. Sustainability, big word, long word, right? It's complex and it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Which is actually part of the challenge, right? Of making it relatable to most people. So there's a few things that come to my mind when I think of sustainability. But what I really want is not this, sort of word cloud. I want happy, healthy people, strong, resilient communities, enjoying a healthy ocean playground. Or, simply put, as we call it, living a deep blue life. Which fortunately actually looks a lot like this. So here's Jack Johnson, Kelly Slater, Mark Healy, and all their friends enjoying basically a community get-together barbecue on the North Shore. And the really amazing thing about trying to sell this is that we actually don't need to sell you on the idea that you want to be invited to this party. I know I would be. So to get people to that party, at Sustainable Surf, we use a systems change strategy to build holistic, scalable platforms. And that's really key, that disrupt the current unsustainable model, just like you were saying. But our real success doesn't come from just making that program or platform. It's really just the first step. The real success comes from getting others to actually use it and to ultimately see themselves in it so that they make it their own and they spread it exponentially. So we have multiple programs that we do this across. or platforms. But let's just look at our systems change model through the lens of the EcoBoard project, which is the world's first sustainable certification system for water sports products. So like most of our platforms, we usually start them off with a question. This question was, what if all surfboards were sustainable? Well, it might start to look a little something like the board that 11-time world champ Kelly Slater is holding under his arm here. It makes use of plant-based resins, it's got an algae-based traction pad, and importantly, it carries our certified EcoBoard project logo, as do all the Firewire and Slater designed surfboards. We were the first company to actually do that back in 2013, so kudos to them. In 2012, the EcoBoard project set the standard for the modern sustainable surfboard. Underpinned by science, every single board that carries the EcoBoard project logo has a measurably reduced carbon footprint, and the life cycle analysis that we did, that study confirms it. Specifically, we found that an EcoBoard made with recycled foam and plant-based bioresin can easily have a 30% smaller carbon footprint. And just like we set out to achieve, the EcoBoard project has actually helped to spark a dynamic market transformation in the surfboard industry. There are now EcoBoards being made and ridden on every continent, covering every kind of water sport category: shortboards, longboards, SUPs, kiteboards, and the list keeps growing. In 2017 alone, there was a 40% growth in the number of EcoBoards built, and a 200% growth in the number of the brands actually building these boards. That is gigantic. That's not even a curve at this point, it's just a straight line up. But what's really most important about the impact of the EcoBoard project isn't just about producing more sustainable surfboards, because at the end of the day, this is like the surfboards are kind of like a gateway drug. It's really the on-ramp for the deeper transformation we're trying to catalyze. And here's a really short montage of some of our favorite videos. And again, this isn't us trying to tell this story at all, just like Tahi was saying with the protest. This is how other people, other organizations are actually using the EcoBoard project platform as a platform to tell their own story.
Starboard has big news to share. We can finally announce that we are B Corp, making us the first watersport manufacturer to become a certified B Corporation.
So not only is climate change an existential threat to us as people, we believe it's an existential threat to our business.
I've called this board the Oceana because we've used sustainable materials and truly support Mother Nature. Partnered up with Sustainable Surf, we'll make a very powerful mission.
This one's so good we had to play it twice.
Volcom's sustainability program was built with a vision to help sustain a strong ocean, stable climate, and smart society. The ocean provides food, water, oxygen, and a home to like a gazillion species.
All right. So this last video that we kind of snuck in there from Volcom, we did it because the protest was actually featured on the live webcast for the Volcom Pipe Pro, which we've actually certified for the last 6 years as an ocean-friendly
Starboard has big news to share.
deep blue event. Sorry, here we go. And like our EcoBoard project, the Deep Blue Event program, again, creates a platform for the surf industry to significantly reduce its carbon footprint. And since 2011, we've now certified nearly 40 Deep Blue events around the world, including 23 WSL surfing contests, which resulted in fewer carbon emissions in the first place, and Sustainable Surf was able to help offset over 20 million pounds of CO2 emissions. So not double-decker buses, but basically that's the same weight as about 110 fully grown blue whales stacked right above our heads right here. It's a lot. So it's pretty obvious that at some level the surfing industry is concerned about their climate impact. And apparently most of us are as well. How do we know that? Well, it's because we actually ran what, surprise, surprise, is called the Deep Blue Survey. And we recently surveyed our global surfing community, and climate change was their #1 global concern. So not terrorism, not selfie sticks, climate change. Specifically, 90% were concerned about the impact of their own carbon footprint. Super interesting that about 30% had actually measured their own carbon footprint. And remarkably, I think, to the general public, 10% of those surveyed had actually purchased carbon offsets to mitigate their own climate impact. And it's not just the typical kelp huggers either. So check out the pro surfer and punk rocker Ozzy Wright. This is actually his Instagram from about a week ago. It features a picture he painted of Al Gore. And in the comments section to Jimmy Fingo's 808, so I guess it's from Hawaii, he says, "I just like the way that Al is fighting to wake us, to save the world from our destructive ways. It's an international situation, global warming." When's the last time any of us defended Al Gore that elegantly, right? Pretty great. And there's a great reason for individuals like Ozzy and all of us to be concerned about the negative impacts of climate change on our ocean. Because as we all famously know, 2 out of every 3 breaths, about 70%, come from the ocean, comes from all the phytoplankton. But that also means that the first breath comes from the land, right? So what kind of land are we most interested in? Well, I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one who left a little inspired by what Conservation International CEO M. Sanjan said in the opening keynote to this very conference, when he was asked about some of the best ways to lower your carbon impact on the ocean. He said, and I quote, "One of the best things that you can do is to support a blue carbon project." What the hell is blue carbon? Well, we went to Conservation International's own website for the Blue Carbon Initiative, and we stole all this off the website very happily. And according to them, what blue carbon is basically carbon stored in coastal and marine ecosystems like mangroves, tidal marshes, and seagrasses. And when they're protected or restored, these blue carbon ecosystems sequester tons and tons and tons of carbon. They're the most significant portion, even though they make up the smallest part of the landmass on the Earth. But here's the deal, is that if these ecosystems are actually damaged or destroyed, they actually stop sequestering carbon, and they start actually emitting it into the atmosphere, which the ocean then has to absorb, making it more acidic. And at this point, we've actually lost 50% of the world's mangroves in the last 50 years alone. So how can we change that? Well, 3 questions come to my mind. That's how we start everything. What if every surfer on the planet became climate positive? What if a mangrove tree, like our partners at Starboard do right now, was planted for every surfboard made? What if every surf event was at least carbon neutral? And more importantly, maybe, what if we all came together to direct that positive climate impact into one specific place? Well, I'm proud to introduce you to our newest platform for 2018. It's called SeaTrees. We're launching SeaTrees as a platform that allows the global surfing community to easily and transparently support Blue Carbon Climate Park in Myanmar. And I've got just a 30-second video here about how this works.
Just one mangrove tree absorbs 1 ton of CO2 over 20 years. They grow at the coastline, where their strong roots provide protection from storms and tsunamis. They also filter water and increase fish production by up to 50%. Mangroves are found across the globe between latitudes 32 north and 38 south. But they're disappearing at an alarming rate. We need your help to plant more mangroves. We have 2.7 million trees in the ground in the Thor Heyerdahl Climate Park in Myanmar. Our goal is to plant 1 billion mangroves with the capacity to mitigate 1 billion tons of CO2. We work with universities, schools, and local villages to provide opportunities. Join us. Just one
All right. And as I said earlier, all of our platforms and programs essentially start by trying to answer a couple questions. So here's one that I've got for the global surfing community. What if every surfer on the planet decided to become climate positive? Please join us. That's what we're going to be doing. And if anyone wants to come and join us, we'd be happy. Thank you very much.